How's it going, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So today I have a bit of a surprise for you because this is not my usual bus. My usual bus is a 2017 Freightliner M2 on a Grech GM40 chassis. This is a 2020. Same chassis, just a newer model and 113,000 miles. Mine has closer to 200,000. So let's do a startup and tour, shall we? So, got my transmission in neutral. Parking brake is pulled out. We'll fire it up. Switch on the lights and the fast idle. All right. We're going to start by going through the back of the bus. I'll turn on the interior lights so you guys can see exactly what's going on. It's got stepwell lighting. So the interior light switch controls both the stepwell lights and the overhead lights. And then there are also lights that come on when you open the service door. So these blue lights here open up. Turn on when the door opens up. And there's also a cool little light here whenever the service door is open. This is also a different service door compared to my bus. And there's the emergency release, also a little bit different. But yeah, it's very unique. Very nice seating. Seat belts all the way down to the very end so everyone can buckle up for safety. It's got power outlets, USB ports for charging your cell phone or other electronic devices. All right. So now I'm gonna close the door. So up here we have the controls for the service door, reading lights, interior lights, and then an auxiliary switch, which right now that doesn't do anything. The interior light switch, okay, so that does turn on lights. Reading lights, it doesn't seem to be hooked up right now. Although, let me see if I can turn on any of the reading lights. Oh, I cannot. So that switch has to be on before that can happen. So I'm going to actually keep that on because I want my passengers to be able to use those. So that's how you work those. I'm not sure if the aux is hooked up to anything, but then right next to that we have our automatic heat and AC for the passengers. So you turn that on. I have it set at 68 auto. Oops, wrong button. And then if you want to do manual control, you can take it out of auto, fan speed. You can change your mode from AC to heat to off. And then in auto, that becomes an on-off switch until it's taken out of auto. I like to just let it do its thing, leave it in auto, so that way it maintains a consistent temperature throughout the bus. And then there's also controls down here for the driver HVAC. Okay, I'm going to turn off the HVAC system. Maximum clearance, it's a nice plaque right there. Accurate depiction of the bus. Ignition switch down there. Power mirror controls. In my bus, that doesn't even work. But in this bus, it does. Alright, over on the left we got our speed control. So you press down, that turns off your cruise control and fast idle. As you can see, this does nothing. You have to flip that up and then fast idle it. You can't just press it down. That doesn't do anything. Whereas in the Thomas Safetyliner C2s, that would fast idle it. So you have to actually press up once and then hold up after you've done that. You want to let it fast idle at 1100 RPMs. Here we have our headlight switch. It's on right now. All the way down is parking lights. Middle is off, which would also be your daytime running lights if the parking brake were released. And then on. And then down here we have our panel dimmer. So when the headlights are on, you can adjust your panel brightness. It'll also adjust your gear shifter panel brightness. Turn signals, windshield wipers, and high beams. And then flash to pass, you pull back. Now, something to note is if your headlights are off, your flash to pass is not going to work. Now, I always ride with my headlights on, because that's how I was trained when I was a school bus driver. I think it's safer. I mean, even if it weren't required by the company, I would turn the headlights on as soon as I start. That way, I can be seen. You use your lights to see and be seen. All right. So here's the vehicle information. It's got a 300 horse Cummins B6.7 engine. It's a straight 6, maximum 2600 RPM. It's got an Allison 2500 PTS, and it does have a park brake option on the shifter. Now, I don't use that ever because I like to manually pull the knob, and for several reasons. You know, the satisfying feeling of pulling this knob helps me know that I've parked the bus and that it's not going anywhere. I also look to make sure that the parking brake light is on my dash before I depart from the driver's seat. And the other reason I put it in neutral is because there is, well, okay, so older air brake vehicles would not have a quick release valve for the brakes, meaning that you could compound the brakes if you stepped on the service brake with the parking brake applied. But this bus, I'm pretty sure, since it's a newer air brake vehicle, it would have a quick release valve. All if not most air brake vehicles manufactured after a certain date are required to have one. And that's especially important in vehicles like school buses, for example, which would have a parking brake interlock. Sorry, my camera was out of focus there. And the parking brake interlock would require that you press on the brake before you can push it in and release it. And you can shift this in and out of PB without stepping on the brake. Same deal for putting it into gear from neutral. So right now, since I have it fast idling, it's not actually going to go into gear. So I'm going to put it in drive. You see my range inhibitor has activated, so it's still actually in neutral. And one other thing is, I feel like there's almost no point to the PB because many drivers, many if not all CDL drivers, are trained to set that parking brake themselves because it is their responsibility to make sure the bus is secured before departing from the driver's seat. And when you change your habits, say you have a PB on the shifter, if you get too used to or too comfortable with that automatic stuff and you jump in a bus that does not have it, because we do have buses that don't have PB, it's inevitable that you're probably going to forget that, oh crap, I don't have an automatic setting parking brake in this. So I got to put it in neutral and I got to manually set this. So with that being said, if you manually set it every time, that's never going to be an issue, theoretically. Or should I say, a rollaway is less likely to happen in that instance. So I'd say do what you're comfortable with, but don't get too comfortable with this. Always rely on setting it yourself if you can. That way you know you've secured the bus, your parking brake light is on, and it ain't going anywhere. We also do have power window controls. Now, for some reason, both of the buses I've driven with this company, this being the second, this up switch for the passenger side does not work. So I have to reach all the way over and put the window up. But that's okay. It's not too big a deal. Mirror heater, we have power locks, unlocks, and exhaust brake. And let me tell you, the exhaust brake on this bus sounds killer. This is also referred to as a Jake brake. We have our forced regen switch, so you can only force a regen if your DPF light is on. That's this light here. I know it's not on right now, so you can't see it, but you know what I'm talking about, especially if you've watched my videos before. And then finally, we have a suspension dump. So now the bus is lowering, it's hunkering down all the way. And there's also a red pilot light that turns on, indicating that I need to flip this to the up position before proceeding. Because if you don't do that, you can cause some serious damage to your suspension. And now my governor is cutting back in because I just did that. Alright, so we're going to let the air rebuild, and then I'm going to perform an air brake test. So I'll buckle up for that. Alright. And one other thing. Always turn off your fast idle before shutting your engine down. You do not want to shut it off at fast idle. That could cause premature wear on serious engine components, such as your turbocharger, because your engine's running at a higher speed than normal. You want to fast idle it when you're still running the engine, but when you're about to turn it off, like now, shut it off at regular idle. All right, air brake test. Key on, engine off. I'm going to push in my parking brake. This is going to be my static air loss test. I'm going to wait for those gauges to stabilize. Another thing you want to make sure is that your bus does not move. And this is another reason why I don't use the PB, because for your air brake test, you have to be in neutral, because otherwise you can't get that parking brake off if it's in PB. All right, gauges have stabilized. 1 minute starting now. I'd also like to note that you don't want to lose more than 2 psi in 1 minute from when those gauges stabilize with your parking brake pushed in. All right, it's been 1 minute. I'm going to do the applied test. I've put my foot on the brake, waiting for the gauges to fully stabilize. And 1 minute starting now. All right. And we did not lose more than 3 psi in 1 minute. So you don't want to lose more than 3 psi in 1 minute with the brakes applied. Now we're going to do the low air warning, which in this bus, you have a screen that says low air, you have a brake air warning light, and then you will have an audible alarm that sounds as long as you have low air pressure. So fan the brakes down until you hear that low air warning. And there it is. So now I'm going to continue fanning down until the parking brake pops out. This is the emergency pop out, or E. And there it is. That should happen at no less than 20 psi and no more than 45 psi. So that was right around, I want to say 35 in tank 2 and about 40 in tank 1. All right, safe start. We're in neutral. Parking brakes on. Let's start it up. Lights on. Now I'm going to check my parking brake. I'm going to put my transmission into drive. 1200 RPMs, bus is not moving. Put it in reverse. 1200 RPMs, bus is not moving. Neutral and fast idle. I'm going to build that air pressure back up. And then once that builds up, what I do during my pre-trip for the last part of my air brake test is I will push my parking brake in, shift into drive, after I put my foot on the brake, of course, because fast idle in this bus does not cancel with the parking brake. So you actually have to put your foot on the brake. That's the only other way besides turning it off manually that you can cancel your fast idle. But we're not going to do any of that now because there's a bus in front of me. But what I would do is I'd push my parking brake in, step on the brake, shift into drive, I'd pull forward 2 times and stop with the service brakes at no more than 5 miles an hour. And then, after those 2 stops, after I've determined there's no delay in stopping power, I would pull forward again at no more than 5 miles an hour, and I'd pull my emergency brake and make sure that stops the bus. You don't want to do it too fast because that could cause damage to the parking brake system. Alright, now I'm going to show you what I do when I'm done for the day, or if I'm going to leave the bus unattended for a prolonged period of time. I'm going to cancel my fast idle, put my foot on the brake, or reapply my parking brake, and now I'm going to switch off my bus, turn the key back on, push the parking brake in. Actually, before I do that, I'll dump the air. So I'll dump my air so the bus is hunkered down to the ground and all the air is out of the suspension. Push the parking brake in, and once that brake light goes out, I'm going to fan the brakes down. And there we go. Parking brake has applied. And this way, nobody can take it anywhere because they can't get this parking brake off. And I know what you're thinking. The bus has locks, and you lock the bus when you're done for the day. This is true. However, people do break into things, including buses, and if they do that and you have air in your system, they can release the parking brake. So even if they can't start the bus, they could move it. So you always want to make sure you drain that air. Because PB is not going to save you in that instance. Because like I said earlier, you can shift out of PB, and even if you couldn't, even if it were in PB, if the key is off, you can still release that parking brake. It's only if the key is on that it won't let you. Why that is, I have no idea, but I think that's a design that could have been implemented better. All right. I think that's going to do it for today's bus video, but, oh yeah, one other thing. There's a kill switch down here, and I turn that off at the end of the day. So this will ensure that even if they got the key and they don't know about that, they can't turn it on. But anyway, this is going to conclude this video. And one other thing. You don't want to turn that kill switch off immediately after shutting the bus off. You want to wait 1 to 2 minutes and let the DEF pump remove all the DEF from the system and back into the tank. So that way you don't have problems down the road with your DEF system the next day. All right. Take care. Have a wonderful day. Hope you learned something new. And peace out till next time.